This meeting to order. This is the January 26th, 2026 regular board meeting starting at 7:02 p.m. Let's start with a roll call, please.
Director Ruddock.
Here.
Director Dye.
Here.
Director Boyd. Here. Director Marsh.
Here.
I understand Director Nagangas is not available today, and then Chair Slater Carter.
Present. We got the first item done with no problems. Or public comment, oral communications for items not on the agenda. I'm looking for hands to be raised on screen. We don't have any members of the public here. Jim, are you raising your hand? No?
No.
Okay, I don't see any hands raised. Let's move on then and move on to the consent agenda. It's short. It's approved the minutes of January 12th, 2026, regular board meeting. Approved disbursements for January 26, 2026, and monthly revenue and expense report for period ending December 31, 2025. Do we have any items you want pulled?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Moving right along to regular business. The board will discuss, seek public input, and possibly take action. I like that phrase. Set the public hearing per government code for the energy service contract to Caldwell Energy. Keishan, take it.
Yep, to Caldwell Energy for a proposed solar and battery storage project, and directs SAM staff to post notice of public hearing on the SAM website and at other locations where SAM meeting agendas are ordinarily posted. Now, this project actually started off, it took off when the general manager had discussions at Lake Tahoe with some of the energy providers. They were interested in providing a solar project for SAM, and we invited one of them to come here and make a presentation to the finance committee in the month of October. And they made a feasibility project presentation to the finance committee, and the finance committee said, why don't we go out for bid and try to get more vendors and see what they can offer. So then SAM went out and sent out an RFP in the month of November. We also had consultants from Ally Bridge who are also here with us, Rebecca and Seth, who helped us put together the RFP, who are experts in this particular field. We sent out an RFP, had the pre-bid mandatory meeting where about 9 vendors participated in the process, and finally at the closing bid, we got response from 3 vendors. So staff, along with the consultants and the team, evaluated the proposals, and we would like to summarize and give a brief about what has been done. So we have Rebecca and Seth from Allied Bridge who are going to make a presentation. So over to you, Rebecca. You can go ahead and start off with the presentation.
Can I just ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
They are working for a different company that you hired
Right.
and paid to do this evaluation.
Correct.
Okay.
And
thanks.
who helped me with the RFP.
Right.
Who are not involved in any way with the bidding or the vendor.
So they're
independent party.
Independent third party. Greg, did you have a public comment, or are you waiting until, or I think you should wait until after the presentation if it's for this item?
I'm waiting till after the presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, we do have a public comment also from Jimmy Benjamin, which I can read out.
I think that would be useful.
Okay. Yes, Rebecca, we can see your screen. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to support and present. My name is Rebecca Wetstein. I'm from Alley Bridge Energy Solutions, and with me is Seth Pierce, who also is from Alley Bridge. We have assisted Sam with putting together a bid package, and Sam has successfully received 3 valid proposals. So what we've done is we put together a short presentation to just provide an overview. And of course, we're available for any questions with this. Hang on one second. All right. So a little bit about what we're going to cover real quick. We'll give a quick background. I think Kishan gave some of the background of where this started, a snapshot of the current landscape and why the economics are beneficial to SAM right now, what the bid process was and what the results were, a high-level overview of what the project entails, and then the schedule and some next steps if the board decides to proceed. So some background, Sam has explored a desire to find a way to evaluate renewable energy for both financial and environmental stewardship reasons. Energy will always be a large operational cost for any wastewater treatment plant, and yours is no exception. In the past, I know Kishan has explored various on-site renewable energy, but and like you mentioned, Kishan, from a feasibility standpoint. And in the past, the goal is to not have to spend any money and to use the economics in the marketplace so that SAM can benefit from a project without having a capital outlay, which is not always available in the marketplace, but we'll talk about why it is right now viable, what has changed. So the current landscape under the, as you probably all can recall, solar has had a while back had utility. Those lasted for a while. Then there were some tax benefits that were put into place. And then when the Inflation Reduction Act happened, the tax incentives were bumped back up. And then recently with the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, not only were the private tax incentives maintained and at the higher level, but the timeline to get a project done was shortened. And that is why the entire solar industry right now is moving very quickly because the incentives the private tax incentives that are monetized to make it so that SAM will not have to come out of pocket will be changing and dramatically be reduced. So how this works is through a power purchase agreement, a private owner can invest their own money to do a turnkey project, design and build it, and then sell the renewable power to SAM below what the utility would charge you for that same increment of power. Any additional power that the site uses beyond what the solar system and the batteries store on site, you'll still be buying some power from PG&E, and you'll also be paying PG&E for the transmission costs and things that they will not allow you to offset. All those are taken into consideration for the economics, and the private entity monetizes all those, puts them in their financial box, and comes out with a price. And how it works is SAM would buy that increment of power for 20 years from the PPA provider. Right now, because of these private benefits, the power purchase price is lower than what you would be paying for that increment of power from PG&E. And again, the One Big Beautiful Act has now made it so that the project has to get through some compressed timelines. And again, PG&E's rates keep increasing, and I suspect will continue to increase over time. They certainly have over the 25 years I've been in the business, and I'm sure we all see it on our own utility bills. as well. So that's what's going on.
Could you please tell us what the timing is on the availability of these tax credits, please?
Sure, sure. So the increased tax credit through the Inflation Reduction Act, and then the compressed timeline through the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. The time frame, the milestone that we're all watching for is that before the 4th of July, 2026, the system has to be what's called safe harbored by the owner. And it means that a minimum of 5% of the total capital cost has to be fully expended, and the project has to be making progress before that date. It does not have to be done by then, but by hitting that time frame, you have then another roughly 18 months to finish the construction of the project. But you've locked in the increased incentives.
Thank you.
Sure. In November, the RFP was issued by SAM, and there were 9 vendors that participated in the mandatory bid meetings, and ultimately 3 bidders provided responsible bids, Caldwell Energy, Optera, and Sizerco Energy Solutions. While they were all fairly good bids, Caldwell Energy's pricing was superior, and all of the companies had experience in the space, considerable experience in the space. But ultimately, this is a summary of how the scoring came out, that Caldwell's pricing was significantly better. A quick snapshot overview of the project. It includes.
Excuse me,
Sure.
could you, I didn't have time to really look at those numbers.
Oh, no problem. No problem. Take your time.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, my pleasure. So an overview of the project. So the project consists of both solar and battery, where the solar is sized to charge the battery, and the battery will discharge during the more expensive times of the day, and to reduce the demand charge that the plant will have in the absence of solar. So the demand charge is the highest instantaneous pull of energy that the plant has, and you get billed on that. And then you also you get billed by demand charge, and you get billed by consumption, the amount you use. And so with the solar and the battery, it allows for the most economic offset of what you would be paying to PG&E in dollars.
Could you help me orient on that map? Sorry.
Sure, the plant is right here.
That was my phone. There was nothing expanded. The plant is where?
Right here, right around.
Okay. So then those 3 pads of panels would be going along the sewer plant driveway.
Correct.
Yeah,
We're in the middle. Sit on it.
Yeah, the
Thank
building,
you.
the building in the lower
I
right is
have a
there.
question.
Yeah,
Madam through the chair.
please.
So does the safe harboring cover pre-development costs or just construction costs? Having to be the 5%. Can it be
That's a good-
pre-development costs?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's the capital cost. So it is not the engineering and professional services part. It is the panels or the batteries. It's the equipment. And so what happens is Coldwell Energy will lock in that increment to for purchase before the 4th of July date, even if they're still working through permitting. They can still have locked in the best economics, waiting for any final permitting if the permitting isn't done by the 4th of July.
Chair,
Yes.
where can I read the proposal? Their bid? There's many technical questions that aren't addressed in the packet. Is there somewhere I can read the details of what they proposed?
Yeah, we have not attached the technical proposals because it's still confidential until the board approves. That's why we did not, and it's still in the negotiating stage, so we didn't want everybody else to do that, but you're welcome to ask for technical questions.
The RFP itself would be fine. I'd start with that.
Yeah, we can definitely settle it out.
Well, you have more. I'll wait for the rest.
Okay, no problem. We're almost done, but we certainly can stop for questions if you'd like. I'm sorry, I can't see you, so I just want to make sure I'm not going
Go ahead,
ahead.
Rebecca.
Okay,
go ahead.
sorry. I want to make sure I'm not interrupting anyone. Okay, so it's roughly just under 800 kilowatts DC of solar, of ground-mounted solar. They're on racks, so they're not laying flat on the ground. They're up above, and they're on racking systems. And then the battery will be closer to the plant over by the parking lot area right by where the new electrical will go eventually, but it can be placed right there.
Okay.
It's a 20-year commitment. So when you buy the energy, you're buying that increment of power for 20 years at a fixed price with a 3% fixed annual escalator on that price. And so if the utility rates for that power go up faster than 3%, then you will have created a cost hedge for that increment of power. And that's where much of the savings comes from, is that you're not going to be buying that increment of power at the higher rates from PG&E. In this scenario, all years, including the first year, does have a positive cash flow, meaning you will be seeing a reduced cost, total energy cost than you are paying now. Over 20 years, the plant will have saved roughly $1.3 million in energy costs versus paying the whole thing to PG&E. You still will have your emergency generator for additional backup resiliency as well. So before I go, any other questions on this? We certainly can come back.
Nancy.
Thanks, Rebecca. Just two questions. One
Sure.
is, would the area of all the arrays, would that be fenced?
It can be. I know
Sure.
I know there's if there's sensitivity around it, that's definitely something that can be negotiated in. It's not compared to the whole project, it's not a very high cost.
No, I was thinking more of security than cost.
Got it. Yeah, we can definitely ask them to include fencing.
Then my second question is, would Coldwell be leasing the property?
Usually there is a site lease for $1 in the way it works. So it's effectively, yes, technically, yes. They have a site lease to be able to have access to put their asset on your property for what you're showing is typical. It's typically $1, just enough to make sure the lease is in place. But yes, so I guess the short answer is yes, there would be a lease in place, and then there would be a power purchase agreement that you would be committing to buy the power that comes out of the system at that fixed price.
Okay, I think I understand that much. Just on one of the
conditions that the agency has to satisfy. The lease cost, if it's just a dollar compared to fair market value, the savings average about $65,000 a year to come up to 1.3 million over 20 years. Are we confident that, do we know what the fair market rental value of that property is? And are we confident that that annual difference between fair market value and a dollar is not going to eat up a big chunk of that $65,000?
Before we get into those kinds of details, I think we should discuss. I think there are, as in Jimmy Benjamin's letter, and Scott and I have been paying attention to this since Sam Board bought that chunk of land. And I know it got sold to us at quite a desirable price because it had so many environmental issues with it. And so we could certainly ask somebody to get accurate information, what the fair market rental value is. But we've had that piece of property, Scott, for how long? 15, 20 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not concerned on like the revenue from it, because I don't know who would rent it anyway. It's just to meet that finding. It has to be, can't eat up our savings.
I agree, but when the fair market rental value is zero,
Then it's not a problem.
yes.
That'll be part of the negotiation we're going to have to do, assuming after the public hearing that the board wants to move forward. The authorization sought would be the authority to negotiate an agreement. So part of that negotiation is to ensure that the contract ultimately approved by the board would meet both of the statutory requirements. So it's a bit of a process still, but we have to be able to make those findings.
Debbie?
Thank you, Jerry.
So there are bigger issues than return on investment here.
Yeah.
It's about permitting.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this project is not going to happen in time to expend 5% by July. And I can tell you why. So it's designated as conservation land in our LUP and would require an amendment to be approved by the Coastal Commission. Being designated as conservation land was also part of the settlement with Jimmy Benjamin over the Kehoe water course issues that we went forward over. And, we have been looking at potential projects that would actually engage this property to divert stormwater away from the plant, away from the Kehoe Channel, to replenish the Caltrans mitigation site, and to do some habitat restoration. That's the whole intent there in the LCP and also the settlement agreement. I guarantee you, Jimmy will appeal. The city's got a lot on its plate right now. It's not going to expedite permitting. So I can tell you right now, Half Moon Bay at the moment will agree to continue to look at alternative locations for it. But otherwise, I'm prepared to vote no because of all the issues, surrounding the property. And we knew these a long time ago, and yet we're proceeding again. And, for the first time, our city staff did not receive the agenda from Sam's staff, so they didn't know that this was coming. Paul's new to the board. I don't think he understood, the issues around the property. Apparently no consultation with the general managers of the city before tonight. That's a problem. So, there are bigger issues here than, dollars and cents. I just want to raise that now so that we don't spend a lot of time on it unnecessarily.
And if I could,
Please, Scott.
I had a bunch of environmental questions. I don't need to ask them now. So, I mean, you've put a number of the concerns I had. For example, I don't see in this report anything about what it would take to achieve permitting.
Yeah.
What the concerns are. The only thing I see in front of me about the environmental concerns are what Jimmy shared with us. And none of what he says is new to me. And I'm pretty much on the
Yeah.
same page in terms of the issues raised.
Yeah.
So for me to be comfortable going forward, we really kind of need to lay the groundwork on what's feasible there. I mean, he raises very specific issues, but I don't even know. I've seen the frogs excavate across the road, first rain, and I'm watching the frogs come out of the ground, that ground. And I had to swerve to avoid probably 50 frogs on my way down the road.
Yes.
And I'm like, that's where they live when they're hibernating. So I don't know how compatible or incompatible that would be, but I would need to hear from experts on, is that compatible with the species that we know that inhabits that land?
Yeah, and Jimmy has reams and reams and reams,
To see a couple
pertinent
of
to this litigation.
I think he has a whole.
He
room.
has, very good buddies who determine permitting in the regulatory agencies that he's developed over the years. He's got reams and reams of information on this already. The Fish and Wildlife and all those people have already kind of weighed in. So
If Jimmy'd been here, that subdivision wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
Or it wouldn't have been, the water flow would not have been managed the way it was.
Right.
That's
I just-
certainly true.
Barbara,
I mean, when I looked at the map, my heart sank. I
Yeah.
looked at this and thought, oh, this isn't going to work. I mean, I know from the birding on this property, how vital a habitat area that is. So,
well, I think we should ask Keisha and staff to look and see if there's any other place that we could maybe put these things on raised elevations on the land here. I mean, this is all
over the parking lot.
Yeah,
yeah, well, it's not big enough.
Yeah.
But maybe over some of the tanks, I don't know.
right. I think we should let Tim and Keisha and the experts look at it and come back to us. And if we need to act on this before February 9th, maybe we should just have a special meeting. But I think if we look at the land here, I've seen some pretty innovative solar systems, as you were saying, over driveways and on roofs of buildings and those kinds of
Parking lots
things.
and-
Parking lots, yeah.
The whole road.
Yeah. And just remember,
Oh, maybe we
the
could.
planning commission would still have to approve a CDP, and then it would need an LUP amendment from the coastal commission. You're not looking at
For that
a month
parcel,
or a few weeks.
That's like 2 years.
Yeah,
but that's for that parcel. For on site here,
yeah,
we're looking at something
much more
different.
realistic, yes.
I mean, I just totally shooting from the hip. We've talked about rooftops, we've talked about paved parking area or other paved area. We have to be able to move equipment around and stuff, but there's a lot of asphalt here. But there's also the berm. If you look and add up all the surface area along the top of the berm, if we had an excuse to improve the berm so it could host solar, that
Well, it's
totally crazy idea, I know, but I mean, just looking at the map.
So this just brings me to a related point, and that is, so Trump signed off on the Water and Energy Appropriations Bill, which means Montero will get its money for Seal Cove, and Sam will, get the core money for this New Start project. The Corps is going to be looking at everything in terms of long-term planning, and we have to keep that in mind too. On top of roofs, probably the best, or on top of other infrastructure, so it doesn't compromise our ability to adapt, per some core study. But that's another thing just to keep in mind going forward. So
I think we all want to do the solar. It's not a question of, is that desirable?
right.
Yeah. Do you have copies of these reports that Jimmy's citing? I'd love to see the 2016 RANA resources report. Do you have those?
No, we cannot say if you get them from Jimmy. You can get them.
Jimmy, I'm sure
I know,
has
but-
boxes of copies.
It's
Well-
land that Sam owns. So I'm just surprised that if you don't have the studies of the,
Well, maybe we could populate the library with.
Right, we can ask
Study,
Jimmy,
start with
we
the-
can ask Jimmy to send
Yeah,
him to us
I
in a
think he
digital
will.
form then.
You will. I
Yeah.
just,
So which one was there one in particular that caught your eye?
the 2016 RANA resources habitat assessment of lands to the south and north of the sand plant.
Mhm.
That seems the most comprehensive.
And there may be updates because they've been talking about improving the culvert that comes from the end of Pilarcitos down into the channel, right in front of his house. So there might be updated information too.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think Jimmy's the one to talk to. Jimmy? Yes,
Nancy.
I just want to ask Rebecca one more question. On a previous slide, there was I think a note that other areas on site had been considered. I'm guessing maybe it wasn't enough square footage for as many panels as you needed. But Rebecca, did you say that you had considered sites within the plant property itself?
So the short answer is we can look at those things. I think what was produced by the bidders, this location, and the other two bidders did very similar locations, had economies of scale, right? It was larger, which allowed them to get to a lower price. And ground mount systems versus, say, carport systems are less expensive. We certainly can go look and quickly go look and see if there's other locations. I suspect that will move the pricing up slightly because the cost basis is likely a little bit higher and the economies of scale a little bit lower. But we certainly can go look and see if there's something else. The challenge, the riddle that we were working with is how do you get something without a capital contribution that saves money, right? And so this was the first best, but we can look at another. We can try to quickly come up with another arrangement.
And if I may add, all the bidders were made aware of that the environmental sensitivity of this location, that there would be, it is one of the largest risks to the project. So the entities that responded, they were asked to demonstrate knowledgeability of permitting. So they were able to talk intelligently in both their oral interview assessment as well as their response, that they are aware of this and that they would pursue solutions through the various environmental authorities, presenting a low impact design that prioritized wildlife connectivity and would protect soil and water, using as minimal impact as possible with probably driven posts instead of any sort of footings that would go down in the ground rather than sit on the ground, thereby minimizing concrete foundations, using pile driven structures, and that this project would at the location that they did propose in, it would probably require high collaboration even through the permitting process with experts to maintain native vegetation and minimal disruption to the flora and fauna in support of the local ecosystem.
Just add one last thing. So, we did a courtyard project out at the end of Stone Pine Road, for which we had, some loans and grants and things like that. The mitigation required us to build red-legged frog tunnels underneath the access road.
Did
And that
they use it?
CDP took 2 years.
Do they use it?
I don't know.
That's interesting. So
That's, it's only open the last year.
even that mitigation took 2 years.
2 years.
And that's a really good mitigation I'd like to see here.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to run over endangered species on my way to a SAM meeting, but,
Yeah. Well, the watershed project that we've been looking at and talking to our legislators about would have had, tunnels under the access road just for that purpose. Yeah.
Well, and the one thing, $65,000 a year, even in today's dollars, it's a lot of money. I mean, we're looking at 32.5 for Half Moon Bay, and then roughly 16,000 for Montera and Granada. It's a fair dinkum of money, but in 20 years, it's going to be worth a lot less. And given the 3% inflation number that they're calculating, and I'd like to see a spreadsheet that shows the decrease in present value of $65,000 over 20 years.
And then have to
The
replace the panel.
65,000, I think, came from me. They said 1.3 million over 20 years.
Well,
And I did a straight line, but their calculation might have started smaller and gotten bigger. I just don't know.
well, I did a straight line too,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, but still seeing the
the valuation.
financial value over time. I had just a technical question. I saw in a few places in the staff report, the word optional in front of the battery storage. But what you're presenting here says that there's 836 kilowatt hours. Are the total numbers here representing actual batteries are part of it, or are the batteries off?
Yeah. It was optional for the bidders. We let them provide multiple
Okay.
options to see where they found the best economies.
Okay,
But in this case, yes, this is solar with a battery.
okay, thank you.
Okay, are we done with questions for the board? Greg?
Thanks. I'm afraid you all have beat me to the punch on some of my concerns. Conceptually, you understand that I do support the idea of using solar and battery and so forth. Conceptually, I think it's a great idea. But I have to respect that we've run into some blue state problems, and thank you, Debbie, for pointing those out. What I do have is an ongoing concern I'd like to register for the future, which is why was there no spreadsheet attached to this? And what's this about being confidential? We're talking about public expenditure of funds. So I really want to see a spreadsheet and have a chance to go through it, just as Scott has expressed. I would comment that the inflation rate for the benefits for something like this is extremely open to question. If you notice what's going on with our utility costs, not only in California, but nationwide and worldwide with the data centers, I would hazard a guess that the inflation in utility costs is going to far exceed 3% going forward. But to the point that has been raised here, I would like to see the spreadsheet and do my own analysis of what the eventual payback will be. Economically, I think this project would probably be a winner. But again, I have to honor the frogs because that's the way life is out here in California. Thanks.
Greg, if I may follow up with a couple of those things. You are right. The average escalation in the general area of the site has been higher in most recent years, but over the last 20 years, it has averaged a number higher than 3%. And so this proposal, when we were looking at the economics of savings, there is the potential for upside, because if the avoided cost of the utility rate goes up anything higher than 3%, the opportunity to lock in the rate at 3% would then be not only valuable because it's a known amount, you're reducing the volatility risk of price increases, but it also would offer savings in excess of what's been advertised here if the avoided cost delta is compared to the utility rate at anything above a 3% increase annually.
Yeah, Seth, let me clarify real quick. I think the confusion is that 3% is you're paying a solar rate at 14.4 cents a kilowatt hour with a annual 3% escalation. That is your fixed bill for the energy that comes out of this system. It's going to offset PG&E's energy because you're not buying that energy from PG&E. If PG&E says at 6 or 8 or 10%, but your rate is only increasing 3%, the value of this PPA has become even better because you've effectively bought a hedge for that increment of energy that won't exceed 3%, even if PG&E goes over 3%. So it's not, the 3% is not an assumed inflation rate. It is the increase on that solar bill that you'll have each year. But if you didn't have solar, you would be having PG&E's increase rates, which are historically more than 3%.
So it's a fixed rate.
Correct. Yeah, you're buying it at a fixed 3% increase per year for 20 years. And if you didn't have the solar, then that increment would follow whatever the increase from PG&E is for that energy.
So you're saying we may be, instead of looking at the 1.3, we may end up saving 2.6, depending on what the rate increases are.
Correct. Yeah. PG&E averages. So up to a few years ago, and when everything started having more inflation, we had a historic 10-year number that people were using between 3 and 5% for what they felt that the utility on average, I think it was like 4.5% on average was going up. In the last 4 or 5 years, it's gone up much higher than that, right? So in this case, you would be fixed at your amount and it would only go up 3% a year, regardless of PG&E. Now you will have some exposure to PG&E because this does not offset your whole plant. So the part of the plant that this does not offset, you'll still have a bill from PG&E. It will be reduced significantly, but it will exist.
And what happens after 20 years?
It's a great question. So you have 3 options after 20 years.
Yeah, you start over.
You have 3 years, 3 options. One, you can tell Coldwell Energy to come at their expense and remove it. The other is you can request fair market.
Whoops, we lost you. Oh, there you are.
You froze a second, Rebecca.
Could you repeat that?
Oh, I'm sorry. You can buy it at a 20-year.
Rebecca's having communication issues. I can jump in there. The second option is fair market value can be assessed for it, and Sam could choose to buy the asset from Coldwell. And the third option, it may be that if it's agreeable to all parties, that Coldwell may abandon it. But that would have to be approved by Sam. That wouldn't just happen.
Just let me add, looking at a Kiplinger report, we're talking to add more information. We're talking about 50% increase in electricity, maybe by 2030 in California.
Yeah.
So we're looking at 20 years. That would be good. Jimmy, I hear you'd like to speak and you're on the phone.
That is true. Am I heard?
Yes.
You're heard.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm just going to mute my phone here. So I apologize. Jimmy Benjamin, I'm your neighbor here at the SAM plant. I have forwarded to Keisha a copy of the 2016 report that you requested.
Oh, thank you.
That came from Mark Jennings, who is an expert on the frogs and the snakes. And I appreciate the attention that you've given. The Certified Local Coastal Program is identifying the habitats in that area. As you know, that's a coastal resource. The protections that are written in the Coastal Act are part of the Constitution, so it's not an easy one to miss. But I would like to draw your attention to the geologic hazards that are associated with changes in vegetation in that area. And the fact that the existing baseline conditions on the area is not the requirement for remediation. The city and I have already had extensive conversations about the unpermitted development in these areas. And so treating this as a baseline so that there's no net loss of habitat is missing the fact that there needs to be changes. They've already been requested by Fish and Wildlife and other regulatory agencies. I'm happy to speak with any and all of you at a different occasion, but I don't want to monopolize your meeting. I'm available to answer questions right now. I'll stay on the line. Thank you.
I think I get the sense of the board that we all support solar and stable electricity prices.
Sure.
But that piece of property seems to have too many limitations for us to even want to spend any time or money. And if they could, working with the engineers for the plant and staff, maybe you guys could mark up We have trees along, for instance, the southern perimeter. Would those be a problem to remove in Half Moon Bay?
Well, you might have to remove them anyway under the new fire map regulations, you know. The Cal Fire was supposed to release this month and now they're not going to release it, I don't think, until March 1st.
Right.
You know, the east side of it downtown too, you know, is going to lose a lot of trees, I think. So it might have to be done anyway.
Well, that's an
So this might be an opportunity for some creative work on other ways to utilize other square footage on the plant.
Mhm.
I do think just in understanding some of the technical about the proposal, what kind of warranties, if panels become damaged, who replaces at whose cost? And then related to that, as efficiencies in panels and inverters improve, although I see this as DC, so maybe the inverter question is separate, but as panel chemistry improves, as production techniques improve, I mean, this year we're going through some really significant changes in the chemistries for solar panels that are becoming commercially viable. So I've got to anticipate in the next 20 years, we're going to see some pretty impressive changes. We're already looking at better than 32% efficiency, heading up to theoreticals around 35, which is unheard of, but here we are. So replacement, warranty, and opportunity for increased efficiency, where do those get covered?
Good evening. I can tackle this for you. So with regards to the warranty, the products are warranted for the life of the project, for one. Secondarily, under the structure having been proposed, care, custody, and control of the performance of these assets is the responsibility of the vendor. And so they are tasked with guaranteeing the production from all of these assets, regardless of what may happen. So there is some shared risk with the land and how it's being used, but generally the equipment is under the responsibility to perform of its owner, which is not SAM. So there's a bit of overlapping coverage with the warranty in addition to that. But regardless of whether there's a warranty on these panels or not, that is the responsibility of the vendor to resolve. To your second question, which is regarding efficiencies, having worked in this industry for renewables and solar very, very closely for the last 30 years, we have seen an incremental increase in the performance, but that incremental increase in performance has not ever presented itself as a sufficient increase in efficiency enough to warrant the foregoing a project in current time, waiting for something better to show up in the future. In other words, the opportunity lost has historically exceeded the value of getting a system online with the current best technology. All of the responses to this were compliant in the fact that they did bid what is considered tier one equipment, which is reputable manufacturers with reputable track history, with best industry standard leading technology efficiencies in inverters, in panels, and
You're
batteries,
asking
and so
a
forth.
different question.
My question was to when the opportunity for the condition change that you corrected. We have not had that step function available in the efficiencies. The efficiencies or the longevity for the solar panels, we haven't seen it yet, but over the next 20 years, I'm willing to bet that we are going to see it. I have a material scientist in the family, so you know I got some. I pay attention to this stuff, and I'm like, okay. So there's a lot of people putting out press releases and getting everybody really excited. But you know, there's some really good fundamental work, and there's never been more money going into the chemistry and manufacturability of these things than there is today. So my question is, when that step function is available, are we locked into the old technology because that's the deal, or is there some opportunity for increasing efficiency?
You always have the opportunity to negotiate for more or for an optimal replace. However, economics of a project like this are usually calculated on extracting maximum value of the deployed asset. So it would have to make sense that the step function you speak of exceeds the cost of stranding an asset that was already invested, as well as investing in refreshing the performance of that new, more optimum technology, if you will. The timeliness of the incentives right now, those are also something, as well as the technology step function that will vary in the future. So in consideration of that, we can certainly assess whether or not we feel like there's going to be the cost of benefit ratio, taking all things in consideration, both the increased performance as well as the costs in the future, with or without incentives. The incentives are very strong right now.
Nancy.
I know that Kitchen has been pushing the timing and the review on this project because of that deadline on the incentives for July of 2026. But it sounds like, given the sensitivity of this site and the time it would take, according to the mayor, for permitting and reviews, both by the city of Half Moon Bay and the Coastal Commission, even if we found a reasonable alternative site in the next 2 weeks, we would still not be in a position to make that July deadline realistically through getting through the permitting process.
Would be tight, yeah.
That's what
But there's a lot less permitting if it's
inside the plant.
inside the plant walls or fences, yeah.
And unfortunately, our streamlining for solar only applies to residential.
Well, I think we should pursue this inside the grounds of the plant and see what we get. It's a low enough cost considering the potential increase in energy rates that I think we should spend some money on it now. And if we don't approve it now, at least we've got the data if another really good opportunity arises.
Definitely worth pursuing.
And you might look at what it would take to remove those trees too. What would that cost? What would
a chainsaw.
Yeah. But I mean, you have to look at it from the Coastal Act perspective. Is it a significant stand, foraging habitat or roosting habitat, that sort of thing. But it might be an opportunity, to utilize that side of the parking lot if you can get rid of some of the trees, right?
Well, it would be interesting to have the environmental conflict with the Cal Fire. And where do we stand with that?
Well, I'm guessing that, I don't know what its status is, whether it's high or very high, but if it's very high, that's probably going to trump anything else, I'm guessing.
Okay, well, let's, so direction given to staff. Do you have any other questions?
No, so the direction which I understand right now is to not go for a public hearing. And we do not have staff to do this project. So whenever our board decides to do that, then we can go out for an RFP, because here we are with a vendor like Coldwell Energy, where there's no cost to SAM. We can work on a contract with our legal counsel to make sure that SAM is protected. And a vendor like Coldwell Energy will do all the groundwork for us. Also go for a different location, because they know it is at their risk.
Right.
With no cost to SAM, we can put that in our contract. And this is an opportunity where we can move forward. But if we don't want to move forward now, I don't know how we can do it later on. I do not have staff in-house to do anything like that.
Right.
We don't want to spend anything from SAM's side. Here are 3 vendors who are going to provide at no cost to SAM. And it's their problem. We know it. We've told them it's risk. So they know that if they go for environmental, it's at their risk. So they will choose. We can suggest different locations. They can do all that study, come back. And if they don't do that before July 4th, then they know what they have to give to us. I mean, they can give us rates which say, they can give us their proposal which says that if they don't make those dates, how is it still going to be a saving for SAM? We're not approving anything right now. What we are doing is giving authorization for Coldwell Energy to go ahead and do that study at no cost to SAM, and allow our legal counsel to work a contract by which Sam gets protected.
I think you should continue the discussions with Caldwell, given the discussion that occurred here tonight.
Yeah, we can't do that unless we go for a public hearing.
And then you need to talk to city staff.
Can you clarify, maybe this is a question for Jeremy, what specifically is the purpose of the public hearing and what is the board committing to if it approves a public hearing?
Yeah, thank you, Director Marsh. Great question. The public hearing is statutory. It just says that it's actually part of for the particular contract that most applies here. There's a requirement for a public hearing. If you're going to enter into a contract, an energy service contract, you must first have a public hearing preceded by at least 2 weeks of notice. Doesn't specify what kind of notice. So in talking to Kishan, we came up with a fairly simple notice, but in order to, let me back up. If we're going to have the board authorize ultimately entering into a contract with Caldwell Energy, it can't happen until there's at least a public hearing. So that is an additional step. And the soonest it could happen would be February 9th, based on the fact that it's 2 weeks from today. Kishan was pretty adamant that we needed to move this quickly forward because of some of the deadlines. But there's an additional issue too, which is going to need to be addressed. And this is all going to need to go into the contract with Caldwell Energy. And that is, we haven't done CEQA yet. And based on what I'm hearing now, there are environmental issues. We're probably looking at an initial study, mitigated negative declaration. One of the things we're going to have to be very careful about is to avoid being pre-decisional, because as some of you may know, before you make an irretrievable commitment of resources as to a project, you got to complete CEQA, which we haven't done. So we wind up with a little bit of a chicken and egg problem. So all of that can be done. And one of the things that Kishan and I discussed is the contractor would be responsible for completing CEQA. But in any agreement with them, we'd have to have the ability to back out to avoid the irretrievable commitment of resources. Sam would have to have the ability to back out based on the environmental study. Does that help?
If we had the hearing, the public notice and the hearing, and that just gives Kishan and you permission to start talking in more detail with Caldwell, and if the terms that basically don't work out or don't work out to terms we're going to agree to, then nothing happens.
That's right.
So I'm trying to figure out, is there a downside to doing the public notice and the hearing?
Yeah, so either Sam could walk out or Caldwell could walk out.
Yeah.
Saying it's not acceptable. But to start the process, we need a public hearing.
So there's no downside to doing the public hearing?
That's what I understand from what
hearing?
Jeremy's told me, yes.
We're not committing anything by doing it?
I don't see a downside. I mean, all you're doing is you're satisfying that one statutory criteria, but then it'll depend on the direction the board gives staff after the public hearing. Now, the board could say, do additional studies, but one thing you can't do is you can't enter that contract until there's been a public hearing. So it takes care of that aspect, but there could very well be additional things like we've talked about that need to get done before any kind of a formal contract is entered into.
So we couldn't even do really the next step to say, is there anywhere else on the property you could feasibly do this until we do the public hearing?
Well, that might be a question for Mr. Pierce or Ms. Wetstein as far as, a proposal has been made. Are we allowed to ask the proposer to deviate in their proposal? I don't know whether that is typical or not.
Can you hear me? Am I
Yes.
okay? Okay. Yeah, so you're right. The 2-week posting, the findings, the public comments, all allow you to be able to vote. You don't have to. And you can decide to vote on whatever you want. But the reason you're going through all of that with an energy services contract is for that government code 4217, the energy code that allows you to do it. And that code allows you to effectively negotiate what you want to. So if we go back, I think we should, take a look and see what makes the most economic sense. We will look at our other bidders and see if they were going to be able to get there. Ultimately, if Coldwell's able to hold their pricing, then Coldwell had the lowest pricing, and they all were given the latitude to design whatever they want to get to the best pricing. So we can definitely revisit that. But if you do move forward with these other procedural items, then that gives you the latitude to decide to vote and move things forward if what comes back is satisfactory to you.
Yeah, one thing we may be missing after the public hearing, which means we may need to have an additional vote from the board, is I don't know if we're not sure what the scope of the project is, because we may want to use a different site, things like that. I'm not sure we can make the findings required in 4217.12. So that'll be something we're going to have to look at and talk about a little bit, because in order to enter into that contract, those findings have to be made. And I don't think, if the project is changing, I'm not sure we can make those in 2 weeks. That's something we'll have to have additional information to be able to make a recommendation to the board on that.
You're right, Jeremy. What they come back with, we'll have to review it. We can review it pretty quickly, depending on how quickly they can turn it around, right? But you're right, we'll have to review it enough to say, do you have the incremental cost is less, right? Or effectively that there's savings.
Yep, there has to be savings, otherwise you can't do it.
You could do an evaluation based on they. Who are they?
Coldwell.
Coldwell, okay.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like we really are not in a position, given the uncertainties that we've raised tonight, we're really not in a position to even approve the public hearing.
I think we should approve the public hearing and see what can happen in the next 2 weeks.
Jeremy said we may not be able to make the findings.
That's true, but you might. I mean, I guess so if you set it, in 2 weeks, we can decide, and the board could say, all right, we'll have a public hearing, and you can decide, we can't make the findings yet, and then you just have to have at some point in the future another public hearing if you still want to go through it. So you don't really lose much.
Okay, so am I hearing the consensus of the board is to direct staff to hold the public hearing at our next meeting, which is February 9th?
As long as it doesn't cost any additional money. I don't want to throw more money, after this, if it's not feasible on the Lanster property,
Well,
So this is like a freebie. We're just going through the motions,
if it's not feasible on the Lanster property, then I'm confused by what you're saying. If it's not feasible on the Lanster property, then what? You don't want to go forward exploring, saving money on electricity?
Don't want to go forward wasting time exploring the Lanster property now.
I don't want to explore the land. I don't think any of us wants to explore the Lanster property. I think we were all saying, talk about what it takes to find another site and find it here, working with Coldwell. And
well, if that's the working assumption, then yes, I can support a public hearing, but just note that, for all intents and purposes, the Lanster property, like for Half Moon Bay, at least, and it sounds like for you as well, as a non-starter, so.
right.
So.
I guess
I'm sorry.
my concern is that to get it through the next step without that property is going to be incredibly complicated and require a lot of study and so forth, and cost money to do it. I guess it doesn't hurt to do the public hearing and then get some estimates as what it would take. I mean, somebody's going to have to evaluate options. That doesn't get done for free. I mean, alternative possibilities, right? None of that's free.
Well,
Take this the next step. And
how much is it going to cost us if we don't save money on electricity?
My father used to say, show me the money you saved,
Well,
when I got a discount on something.
Well, and as Scott pointed out, if the technology is rapidly evolving,
I'm not
it may
against
be
the
that the
idea, but
efficiencies will reduce the cost. Yeah.
My question was really more for, 5 years, 10 years out. We wish we'd bought, hey, now we want to upgrade it. How does that happen? So for me, that was just a logistics question.
All right.
But I'm curious. Look, we've pointed out.
I'm okay with it, but-
Lancer's infeasible, right? It's just infeasible on the timeline with the funding and the incentives and all. There's no way. So Lancer, no, but the general nature of the project, yeah. Now, does Caldwell want to put in the effort to try to identify other pieces of land area that could be utilized, they may look at it and go, no, we can't, it doesn't pencil out. You know, you talk about the berm, oh man, the cost to do that, well, maybe they don't want to do it. Or maybe they see some opportunity because they've worked with other complicated properties before. We're not gonna be the first one. I'd like to see what they come up with. I'm for that.
Yeah, okay. What if
I'm okay with that.
have you ever had Peninsula Clean Energy look at the site?
Yeah, they did a lot of discussions with us, but then ours was not on the priority list, so we
Okay.
never took it up.
But they might consult with Coldwell on alternatives, you know, and they would probably donate that.
Oh, that's
Peninsula
interesting.
Clean Energy,
Yeah.
The advice.
the advice.
Yeah.
If we approve the public notice tonight, then 2 weeks from now, either the team comes back and says, having, to pencil to paper, we think we can make the findings, yes or no. If they say no, then we can't go forward with it because we don't meet the findings until more homework is done. But if they have enough information from the reviews that the vendors already did when they looked at the site, since they got to choose their place, we don't really know if they looked at other places other than the Lancaster property. If they do come back with sharper pencils and it still looks feasible and they can make the findings, then we have new information.
Yeah,
So I don't see there's a downside to saying, go to a public notice. We may come back in 2 weeks and say, it's really not feasible to do anything that we could do to make these savings in this period of time. Or they may come back and say, Coldwell is willing to go into negotiations, knowing the limitations that we have.
but if we don't have the public hearing, then everything stops. And when we're looking at our budgets in 5 years and our electricity costs have gone up
70%.
significantly, we may be sorry. So I think it's worthwhile. So
Okay, so then maybe somebody make a motion to set the public hearing.
Can you stop sharing? Good thing.
is that a motion? Deb-
Yeah, so moved.
Who's making the second? Second. Scott
Scott,
and
Nancy.
Nancy.
Just one last thought. Coldwell may come back and say, I can't hit your 792 kilowatt EC, but I could hit 650 at the reduced landmass. It'd be interesting to see how hard they want to work to try to bring us something that works for them and us.
Maybe have a biologist look at the trees.
Maybe we should ask the fire department to look at the trees.
That's a good thing to do.
They actually did, city staff was out there with CAL FIRE and they actually looked at those trees. So city staff probably has the insight.
Let's
on
check
what's going on.
that, Matthew's on the.
Hi, Matthew.
And that was like, I think, I want to say 2 months ago, they were out
Yeah,
there.
okay.
So pretty fresh.
Matthew, can you talk about that?
I actually don't know about that. I would have to follow up with staff to know what the purpose of that was and what the findings were. I don't have that information tonight. I apologize.
Well, let's just get the information and see where we're going.
Sure. Happy to.
Good.
We need to
Okay, let's have a vote.
Can you just?
Oh,
so
one more
I
point.
know what the motion
The
was.
motion
I
was
just want to make
as,
sure I have it down right.
it was as recommended in the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah, which all you're doing is setting a public hearing and directing staff to provide notice. After that, we'll see how it goes in 2 weeks. We're not really.
setting a public hearing for February 9th.
Okay, and are there any comments from the public before we take this vote? Seeing no hands, let's call the question. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, nay. And it passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to item 2, which is update on the progress of the California Environmental Quality Act on the SAM Force Main project in Montero. Go for it. It's your Keisha.
Yeah.
Taking a sequence.
So this is on the sewer force main and project in Montero, which is a high priority project, as you all know. We have required to complete the construction by June 2027. And we all know that last year in the month of April, we had a force main break in the same IPS. And we had one last week, which we're going to talk about it in our manager's report. So it is very critical, very important for us to move forward with this. And today we are actually talking of the notice of availability. We have submitted all the documents to the state clearinghouse. We're waiting for approval from them, and only after that we can post the notice of availability. I do have the project is going as per schedule. There is everything is going as per schedule. We'll be bringing the GMP sometime later after a couple of months, the maximum price. But I have Rachel from SRT Consultants who will be making a quick presentation on the sewer force main. So I will be sharing the screen, and then Rachel will be doing the presentation. Let me just go over the.
Right, they haven't posted it anyway. Right. Yeah. Good point. Oh. And she went challenge. Yeah.
But can I just say, congratulations on getting to this point. Well done, everybody involved.
Thank you. Go ahead, Rachel.
Okay, so just in case somebody doesn't know the project background, I was going to quickly go through that. The force main is a segment of the intertie pipeline system that is owned by SAM. And this segment is the only remaining portion, I believe, that is ductile iron pipeline. And it needs to be replaced, as Keishan has indicated. And there have been multiple spills. He's already discussed that, so we can move on. Next slide, please. Right now, we've entered into a design build contract with the team of McGuire and Hester and M&S. They have been working very diligently to get to this point. Design and permitting has been progressing, and we're ready to circulate the initial study as required by California Environmental Quality Act for review by the public. And this is the conceptual force main alignment that we used to do the initial study. Next slide. So I just like this roadmap because it really is visual, and you can see that we've been going through the process of getting to this point. And right now we're here where we're right before you could get to the design and the negotiate the guaranteed maximum price. And we are initiating the environmental review so that we could get to this point. Next slide. So we've completed a number of milestones. We've completed probably more than this, but for example, the topographic survey, the geotechnical investigations, environmental analysis, and 30% design, which is what has allowed us to get to the point where we complete the initial study. Next slide, please. So at this point, we're at the top. We're doing the environmental review. For the CEQA, we are working also on the coastal permitting. We have a technical memorandum that's going to summarize everything. And for the consideration of what the final design will be. There's some other permits that we are working on, Caltrans and county encroachment permits. We're going to State Water Resources Control Board permit, California Fish and Wildlife, and incidental take permit. As far as design goes, we're close to 60%, even though we say we're at 30%. And what we're waiting for is pretty much the results of the permits and the requirements to finalize the design. And construction is anticipated to start in July of this year and end before the deadline of June 30th, 2027. Next slide. So the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, requires preparation of the initial study to determine if the project may have a significant effect on the environment. It's subject to public review for a minimum of 30 days. So that's what we're doing at this point. And during that review period, we'll receive written comments, and they will be considered as part of the project's environmental review and will be included in the final initial study. And at that point, the final initial study will come back to your board at a public hearing for consideration, and we're shooting for the end of April to do that. Next slide. So this is basically an informational item for the board, so you know that this initial study has been completed and is ready to be circulated, so there's no surprises. We plan to start the process by posting the notice availability in the San Mateo Daily Journal and the State Clearinghouse on January 28th, 2026. We have to wait till the State Clearinghouse has accepted it before we can circulate, so there may be a day or two difference between this, but it'll still be fine. The initial study will at that time be available for review on the SAM website. And the anticipated end of the 30-day period is February 26, 2026. And this is,
Yes.
I believe, the conclusion of the presentation.
Thank you, Rachel. It will also be available digitally on digital papers like Coastside Buzz and Coastside News, besides getting it published in the San Mateo Daily Journal.
Okay. Christian, can you put the map back up?
Oh, sorry.
I was reading the description of it and had a hard time I got where it begins at California Street, but it said Sonora and Coronado and something else in and something about Miramar. So I wasn't sure where that bottom end is.
So questions from the board first and then the public.
Sorry.
So we've got the map up, but now I can't see the audience, but you have them on your screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I don't have this. I don't have any.
You don't have the audience, so we won't see any
I
hands
can go
that are
back. I
up.
just wanted to see that terminal end there.
Okay, so let's go back so we can see any hands that are raised. Questions from the board? Debbie?
No. Seems pretty straightforward.
Barbara?
I look forward to seeing it.
Scott?
I agree with Barbara, and I'm sure the rest of us, this has been a lot of work. Thank you for getting us to this point.
Nancy?
Same. I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Good. So this was just for information. And so people know both from in the staff report and other places where we can find this. So let's move on.
Yeah, as soon as we get clearance from the State Clearinghouse, the ISMND will be available for public review. It will be on our SAM website. There's a link because it's a huge document. I will also send it to the board members so that they're aware about it, besides putting it on the website.
Thank you. And I don't see any hands raised in the digital Zoom audience. Let's move on then to general manager's report.
Okay, so just a minute, please. On my stop this.
Were there any questions about the manager's report?
I wanted to the most main thing.
No, it's always very interesting though. I always zoom in on the collections report for Granada.
Me too.
Making sure there's nothing.
Now we know.
Yeah, we'd like to give us a short brief on the sewer force main leak, which occurred last week. Go ahead, Tim, you want to talk about it?
Yeah, you can kind of, I'll type that fast. You can break. Okay, so this was the force main. That's the picture when it was actually Tony and Pippin that found it. They were actually out doing they were walking areas of the force main for the force main project that's coming up for the pothole locations. So they wanted to see where exactly the potholing was going to be.
For the audience, what is potholing?
Potholing is where they bore holes in in the Montera area, they're only allowed to hydrovac the boring of the holes and is for finding utilities or whatever.
Okay.
Other special treasures might be in the ground.
Correct.
Yeah.
Is that a red-legged frog I see?
No, there's no red-legged. So this is what they found when they got there. So there's a big hole, and this had been going on for a couple days. The upside of this is when the water came into the hole, once the pressure dropped back down, everything went back down into the pipe. So it sort of contained itself to some degree, not completely, but it did contain itself to some degree, much like there was, and you'll see in one of the next pictures, you'll see where it was last year. So it is a little bit closer up. You can see the pipe there. You can see the condition of the top of the pipe. Can you scroll down a little bit more? Yeah, see? So that's the pipe right there as they saw it. So
Oh, I see. So that's gravel around the
that's
pipe.
gravel around
And the
it.
pipe is in the center, highlighted by the reflection.
Exactly. And the next
What's the
picture,
diameter?
that next picture is even better. You'll see.
What's the diameter of the pipe there?
12-inch. You can't tell by looking at it from that picture, but it's actually a 12-inch.
Oh,
You're
Yeah.
looking at the top of it there.
Yeah, the depth of it, so the depth of the pipe, and by and large, the depth of the force main, all the way from Valleymar down through all the fields and everything, is about 6 foot in depth. Generally, Los Menos is pretty close to that area. You can go to the next picture. You'll have to excuse the format. I was in a hurry. So this was like the fastest, cleanest way I could get something out prior to the board
Is
meeting.
that the
So could
hole?
you explain that not good words there? No, I.
Not good.
Yeah.
hole in the pipe, not good.
Hole in the pipe, not good. Yeah, colander, even for a colander, it wouldn't be ideal.
Ew.
Yeah, so that's the pipe. I mean, you can see there's water flowing in the pipe. You can see
I
water
appreciate, Tim, appreciate your choice of words for the public viewing.
Yes, it could be more colorful if you like, but
It's pretty colorful.
It gets the message across.
It gets the message across. So anyhow, so after we saw this, clearly we know, okay, we're gonna need to replace some pipe here. We weren't sure how much we were going to have to replace. And the problem when you see sections of pipe like this, once we start digging, you don't know. You start to go back 3 feet and you find like something the size of a silver dollar. You go back a little more, you might find a dime, which is going to grow. But from this, we knew we weren't going to do a circle clamp. That wasn't going to happen. We knew we were looking at
Yeah.
pipe replacement.
This is going to be replaced by the new pipe, right?
This will in fact be replaced by the new pipe, hopefully sooner than later. Okay, keep scrolling
Yeah, and
down.
this happened very close to the location where it leaked last year.
I have that picture in here as well.
You'll have that as well.
So this is, so just for reference, I wanted to.
I know where that is.
That's just a Google
Yeah.
shot, right, Etheldor, and you can see where the circle is. Part of the reason, well, there's a telephone pole right there, so that was kind of sucky. If the telephone pole wasn't there, I probably would have very much considered replacing a little bit more, like put a full stick of pipe in there instead
And a
of
full
just
stick is,
20 feet.
thank you.
Instead of just an 8-foot section, because you just know.
Yeah.
You just know. The more you dig, you just know you're gonna find more stuff. So anyhow, that's just for reference. So that's the date. It was Thursday, it's 22nd. So that's actually Andrini's little mini excavator. They were actually working at the park just above by California Street in Moss Beach. So they were super close. So since it's a rubber tire or rubber track mini excavator, I just asked, I said, instead of waiting for transport, you just drive it down the street and get there super fast. And they're like, yeah, we can probably do that. So they were on site within a half hour.
Cool, great.
Yeah. So that was super handy. So, and at this time, Valleymar was already shut off. The Montera pump station was already shut off. but we still had sort of elevated flows coming through both stations. So we know we have 500,000 gallons. So we had over a day, but still, once you start doing these things, if something happens, once you get the repair done, you hot everything back up. And then that 24 hours of storage that you thought you had, because now all of a sudden you have to do another repair, it shrinks and it gets sticky in a hurry. So that's never any fun. So that's them excavating. This is us. We found the pipe. Like I said, it's about a 6-foot depth. Yeah, I'm glad I'm not in the hole with these guys. This is where they were scraping back, exposing more of the pipe. So this is where we're looking. We found a big hole, and this is where they're looking for, okay, there's a bell right there. It's kind of interesting because the bell, we have seen areas.
What's a bell?
So the bell is, you see where that fellow is right there? Yeah, so that's the bell and spigot of the pipe. So when they put the pipes together, they sort of overlap and they mush them together, and that's how they seal. But we have seen areas near the bell in other locations where we have this similar sort of thing. I don't know if there's any correlation to the locations of the bell, if it creates any extra turbulence or anything, or is it just totally coincidental? I don't know. I just think it's kind of interesting and sort of odd.
But the bell is positioned so that the inner pipe is inside and the flow is
exactly
in the, yeah.
It follows direction of flow. So the smaller portion would go into the larger bell section. And so the direction of flow is always, well, it's coming south.
Right.
In this situation. Okay. Yellow scroll. So you can see where our worker there is in the circle. So April of last year, that's where, so 20 feet away. So that's where the hole was April of last year. It was 20 feet away from the same location. So that's how close the two locations were. And that's what I said, when we started digging back, I was like, we're almost going to run into last year's piece of C900. Maybe we want to go back there. I don't know. But we did find a clean section of pipe, and yeah, and since we are kind of scrunched on time, we said, well, let's just do this and hope for the best. There's the truck with the C900. We have the C900 is the type of pipe that we used for
HDPE.
Replacement. Yes, an HDPE. Super
That's
thick wall,
pretty.
very heavy. So we have that on site at the plant. So that's 2 sticks on that truck, which is a lot of weight. And the next picture I did just because I thought it was a cool picture, and it kind of reminded me of like the science fiction movie if you scroll down to the next one, which is also just the truck with the 2 pipes on it, right? Like if someone's driving down the road and they're like, ah, what the hell is that? So that's all that picture is.
Those are just sonic sound waves.
Exactly, right? It's kind of weird looking.
Woo woo.
So here's the guy cutting into the pipe, and that's the bell we had to cut off because you can't, there's no way you're going to get that section of pipe out of that bell without doing serious damage. So you have to cut the bell off, which is too bad because it's a clean section of pipe.
Is
Yeah.
that the section of pipe we put in last year?
No,
you can see
that
the
was-
whole.
no, whatever we put in last year, whatever we put in was going to be C900. It would have been green.
Yeah.
So, and it would have been further north. So we would have had to go north further. Scroll. So this is the Smith Blair that's used for the pipe restraints, and it's the OD on the ductile iron and the OD on the C900 piping is the same. So we use the Smith Blairs, and they just sort of made them all together, and they high pressure restraints. So that's just what that picture is. The type of
That's the connector
restraint.
between.
That's the connector that we used. Yeah,
Mhm.
and then if you scroll down, you'll see it in the. Actually, I think the next one's in the hole. Yeah, that's the repair with the. You can go down a little more. Yeah. So you can see the 2 restraints there in the.
It's kind of like giant tourniquets.
It kind of is. That water there, that's just groundwater. There's a lot of groundwater in the area, so that's just groundwater that was there. That was a leakage. And there it is, all covered up.
The
We
happy
did
ending.
actually, we ended up going back the second day to cover up for two reasons. We wanted to, it was getting late, so then you start to get into employee safety, working right next to the highway and all that stuff in the darkness. So we covered up the hole with the tractor, we had it all cordoned off and everything like that. And then we came back the following morning and it still wasn't leaking, which was super cool. We were happy about that. So then we went ahead and covered everything up. I think we put it back online about 5:30 that evening. So this is just for reference. This is just measurements of the hole. That's the length of the hole. The next one is the width of the hole.
How does the water leak out of the top? It must be at only during maximum flow. So okay, so during a storm, it would be at max, but most of the time that would not have been leaking.
I don't know if Tanya wants to weigh in on that one or not, but
It's a pressure pipe.
Oh, it's a pressure pipe, okay.
yeah, there's a high probability. But like I said, when it did leak, it came up and then it went back down.
Right, right.
That was the other hole we had. That was right next to, I think the next picture has where that hole was in reference. Yeah, oh, there you go. Approximately reference.
How close?
The other point, yeah, that's how close it was. So that's kind of, yeah.
Yep.
And that's the problem with those things as you're going along and you start digging. Where do you stop? When we did Valleymar, we just started doing 2 lengths of pipe every time we had a leak. We just went, you're just gonna replace 40 feet.
Yeah.
Well, this shows the necessity of, yes, the project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes a point.
Okay.
Okay,
Well, thank you for all the pictures and
Yeah.
explanation. It's
Yeah.
helpful.
It's really great. See,
I like show and tell.
And congratulations on getting through that without exceeding the holding storage. That's good.
It's
I know you were thinking about it, so.
It's a different sort of dry January, but we really appreciate it.
Exactly. Moving on to the attorney's report.
Yes, Madam Chair, it's at the hour draws late, so no,
Jeremy,
Wait a minute,
premature. I was
No, the
premature.
manager's report is not yet over, sorry.
okay.
Okay, I also wanted to say one other thing, Director Marsh had brought up in the last meeting. She suggested that we change to 1 meeting a month instead of 2 meetings. And the board discussed, they said, let's bring it back to the next meeting. And staff discussed amongst ourselves and consulted the chair. We found that it would not be in the best interest of SAM to change to 1 meeting in the first half of the calendar year until June 30th, because number 1, it's a budget season, so we'll have to come back and forth for approvals. Number 2, because of the several projects which we need board approval, electrical relocation project, the sewer force main in Montana, and the solar that we talk about. So if it's 1 meeting a month, then it'll be too difficult for SAM staff to wait until the next year. We could have a special meeting, but in the past I've found it is a challenge for me to get all 6 directors as well as my legal counsel to be available on a particular undesignated day. So that was the thing. So we would request that we defer this until June. We can bring it back and rethink at that point of time.
Just one, totally fair, because it was a new idea that hadn't been considered, so to take the time to think about it and what the implications are before it comes back, totally fair. But we have a one process problem, and that's in the motion for approving the consent agenda, we specified that that particular item would be deferred. And so we didn't approve any regular meeting schedule for this year. So we still need to approve a regular meeting schedule. So I think we still need to bring that back, and it can be very quick. But that was really one of the reasons to bring it back this time, because we didn't We didn't approve any schedule at
Well,
all.
my preference would be that we continue the whole year with 2 meetings a month and canceling everything that's not needed.
Okay, the motion that we passed said we'll bring it back for a discussion,
Right,
and we haven't
right.
done that.
And we haven't done that. And so if we do a calendar, I'd like to have that discussion.
That's it. I mean, I'm just asking that we
That's
bring
what
it back because we
Yeah.
need to make,
Well,
we need to
that,
make a decision on our meeting schedule in any case, because that's.
right,
the
that
risk.
comes under topics for future board.
Yeah, so we already have an item which did not get approved last meeting, which is schedule of board meetings for the year. So I'll bring that back in the next meeting.
Right. Good, which was already on the.
Yeah.
We have an existing resolution that sets meetings. It'd probably be good to send it out to the board to make sure that's still their intention.
That would be appreciated. Don't think I've seen it.
Yeah, it was last year, so I mean, but just make sure it
Good.
still reflects what you're looking for.
Okay, I'll check. Are we done?
Yeah, we're done.
Good. Now attorney's report, Jeremy.
Okay, and I'll just say that no report. It's getting late, so no report this evening. I'll have one for you next time.
Oh, that was cool.
Thank you. Director's reports? Seeing, hearing none. Turn the page. Topics for future board consideration. We've got 2. Convene and closed session.
No closed session.
No closed session?
Not for me.
Yay, we're adjourned.
Yay.